Hi, I'm here with Yannis Markopoulos, who's the Innovation and Project Director at Forthnet, company in Greece. Yannis, can you say a few sentences? What does Forthnet do?
Hello, good morning, and thank you very much for this invitation. Forthnet is a private telecommunications and pay TV company. We are operating 25 years now. We started our operation in '95. And we serve with telecommunications and pay TV services the 16% of the Greek households. And of course, we serve the public sector and private small SMEs and the large industries with specialized telecommunication companies. We do our productions, especially on sports, and we are moving towards the new generation networks, also the mobile networks as well.
Okay, so that's good to hear. So you are aiming for the telco services and pay TV services at businesses, consumers. But what would you say are the business goals of Forthnet, of a company like yours?
Well, both telecommunications and pay TV are quite difficult markets, especially in small countries like Greece that we operate. The population of Greece is 10 million. The households are 4.6 million, more or less. And you understand that this market can be easily saturated. Everybody has telecom services, the competition is high. We have more than 3 large telco operators that compete between themselves. So eventually, all commodity products will end up being offered at lower prices. Very limited opportunity to differentiate. Of course, we do differentiate with our content, but we try to employ other means to differentiate. For instance, we try to do better profiling of our customers through the data that we're keeping. We try to transform our company, our group of companies, I would say, in a data company where we can capitalize on the value of this information and offer customized services and targeted, actually, services to our clientele, of course, capitalizing on the upcoming technologies that are emerging worldwide, such as the over-the-top, 5G, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. Okay, so data is important for you, and it's important to profile your customers, so you are not down to competing just on price. So let's talk about data. What kind of data are you collecting about your customers?
Yep, actually, we're collecting as much as data as we can. For instance, I can give you some example. Of course, we start from the CRM, the customer relation management. So we have the whole history of our customers, when they entered, when they paid, which packages they have used, and upgrades, downgrades, or when they left us and then came back. So we do have all this history, both in telecom terms and pay TV terms. We also have viewership data from pay TV services, especially the bi-directional pay TV services. We cannot have so many data from the satellite service, which is unidirectional, but from our over-the-top services. We can have behavior data. And
so you know what people are viewing, what they are clicking on.
That's correct, and when, and who, and in device. Because we understand when the family sees a content, or some individuals see the content, or if there are parallel streams, meaning that members of the family do that, or sometimes piracy. So we have to defend all this and propose solutions. We do not want to penalize our clientele. Of course, large types of piracy have to be defended, but we would like to provide constantly value add to what they would like to have.
Yeah, okay, that's clear. Hey, so I imagine that those data could be sensitive, right? So you can't disclose them to others because they're about people and about what people are doing. But let's assume that you have the technology to do it in a way that preserves, that protects the privacy of your customers. What becomes possible to do that? What kind of scenario?
Yeah, this is a very good question, Mark. Thank you very much. Actually, even before GDPR, we had these restrictions. we are under the auspices of great authorities as telecom operator and in general as operator. So we have to be very careful with our clientele data and their privacy. And of course, the communication with the authorities in special cases such as lawful interception and so on, so forth. But even following the GDPR, we have established strong processes in order to safeguard the data of our clientele. Nevertheless, we have to find ways to extract value. So a scenario which is actually very close to the real case is that, as we said before, we have two parallel operations, the telco and the pay TV operation. And these two operations have to somehow collaborate, no matter if they promote different products, they have to collaborate in order to promote targeted products, probably binded products to the partners. So we have to find ways to exchange data from the CRMs, for instance, of the two different product streams in a way that we do not violate the privacy of our clientele in both these streams. So we have to find ways to somehow anonymize and exchange. Since it's not always that easy, we experiment with technologies as PSI, so we can have anonymized databases of CRMs that are constantly being updated twice a week, more or less. And then we can exchange data or extract, I would say, knowledge through PSI from data. So we can see which customers in specific areas have common interests, or they are quite wealthy in order to select lucrative products, or they lag behind in selecting some products. So we can do this analysis through the PSI in a GDPR compliant way between the partners that do not really have or should exchange private data.
Yeah. So you can see if some customers are perhaps an opportunity to be targeted with another product.
Yeah, the target is to try to upsell all the time. So we see the status and see what we can do. Also, sometimes we need to retain. If we think that the customer wants to leave for a reason, we have to identify this reason and provide value-add offerings. In lower prices, but retention is a key goal as well.
So keeping the customer in that wants to leave with other products and offerings.
That's correct. If a customer leaves and we try to get him back, it will cost us 3-4 times more than trying to retain him. So it's really important for us to find the means in due time before he or she decides to leave and offer the right product.
Yeah. So I can imagine that's worth it. Hey, and what about sharing data with other firms? Would that be possible too? What kind of business model would that be?
You mean exchange data with external companies or something like that?
Yeah. Your customer data could be interesting for other companies as well.
They are interested. In general, we are in a data ecosystem. We're all discussing this in forums. But currently, as we know, large industries especially, I would leave for the time being out the small industries which are more flexible and try to provide solutions. But large industries like us, like banks or other industries, factories, we are a bit dinosaurs. We want to exchange data, we want to find and deploy new technologies, but on the other hand, we have very heavy processes. And these processes and culture impedes us from being flexible in order to provide data. So no matter if engineers and marketing practitioners would like to do so and make co-offers, make valuable inter-industry products to the clientele, we have to find standardized means in order to do so. For instance, a data marketplace which is acceptable and quality operated and inspected for security could be a trusted third party in order to become a means and a ground in order to exchange data probably using PSI applications. So in this way, we do not violate the privacy of our clientele and their clientele. And on the other hand, we gain or we exchange information about the behavior in a way that we can both create products that actually these products benefit the clients. Being silent, this does not result to a benefit for the clients. Exchanging information and producing common products really target and provide value to the clientele and the rest of the community. So such means that is standardized and well-accepted data marketplace, PSI applications, and such family of applications would benefit the exchange of data and knowledge between different industries.
Okay, so if you would have a data marketplace, a trusted third party, then it would be easier to share data with other players.
It's absolutely.
But why would you want to do that? What would you get back for sharing those data?
Yeah, it's first of all what we said. It's the knowledge. So this is what we want to do, and having a standardized means to do so means that we do not have to repeat the same process again and again and again to find approval. So this is for granted. Also, as we said before, data are value. Data is an infrastructure, of course, for our operation. We consider them infrastructure beyond our networks, but also they can be a product on their own. As much as we have data and we proliferate on our data, we can see if this data can become a product. It's not something imminent, but we can see that for the future. So
if your data become a product, then that means that you will sell the data for money, or?
That's correct. In a way or another, we have to do so. Products is something that you sell. So
yes.
Data, if they become at the end of the day a product, it's something that you sell or trade or exchange. So we have to see in which terms data can become a product, which part of the data, and of course it is a bi-directional point of view, something that you offer that you are comfortable to offer, and something that is valuable to the other end. Someone would like to use it. So we have to test this nowadays that we are still in the infancy of this description of this endeavor, and we can see in which way we can trade, which data are safe to trade, and which data are interested for the other parties to do so. And of course, the means and the value. I believe that the digital economy initiatives from EU, respective products such as projects such as SafeDeed, Trust, and other innovative projects will give us hints on how to do that should these environments go into a commercial operation. We will be prepared, and that's why we are eager to participate in such endeavors at very early stages.
Yeah. Okay, fascinating, Yannis. Thanks for sharing your insights on how data is helping your business model as a telco and pay TV company. Thanks, Yannis. And for you watching, good luck with concluding the assignment.